What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Stardom Situm Show Holiday Edition from home, safely socially distancing. I'm Kimmy Checks. These two guys are Adam Rank and Michael F. Florio, aka Santa Claus. Need to know, are your lineups naughty or nice for this playoff stretch, Adam Rank?
Oh, you know what? It's unfortunate because I had way too many shares of Tom Brady. My list is now naughty. A majority, like I made the playoffs in like 20 of 24 leagues. I think I have 4 teams left right now. A lot of it because of Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins. I blame both those guys. Oh, and by the way, when you bring the 3-shot, by the way, if Chrissy can get a screen grab of us, I would appreciate it.
Okay, Christy, get a screenshot. Florio, naughty or nice? I know one of your lineups were naughty because and Cooper Kupp, myself and Cooper Kupp, we knocked you out of the playoffs.
Oh, I was Cooper Kupped, man. I went in with like a 34-point lead in that one, and it didn't matter. I still lost, and I'm rooting for you to win that one, Kimmy. Take it home. But I got like 4 or 5 teams still left, and they looked nice at the start of the week, but every day they get a little naughtier because it seems like every day more players are getting taken out of our starting lineup.
Ooh, well, speaking of players getting taken out of our starting lineups, at the time we are recording this show, which is 9:45 in the morning in Los Angeles, news just broke that Dalvin Cook was placed on the COVID Reserve 19 list for the Minnesota Vikings. However, good news is that just yesterday on Wednesday, Alexander Madison was activated. So, Florio, this is a huge hit for fantasy managers everywhere. What are we thinking we do with Alexander Madison now?
I think you start him. I know there's some concern that, he missed last week because of the COVID list, but I think we've seen it every time that Alexander Madison starts in place of Dalvin Cook. He gives us Dalvin Cook type production. So if you have Cook, hopefully you also have Madison, and we're seeing it every single week. It's another lesson of why you should have your handcuff running backs on your roster at this point in the season.
Yeah, let's remember, too, the Minnesota Vikings don't really operate a timeshare in the backfield. They pretty much commit to one running back. And to me, Alexander Madison has been nearly indistinguishable to Dalvin Cook, at least in terms of fantasy production. So, yeah, if you pick up the Alexander Madison, hopefully you've held on to him. Get him into your lineup this week. Even if a toughish matchup against the Rams, I still feel comfortable playing him.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to some starting quarterbacks because I know Alexander Madison's quarterback is on your list, Adam Rank. So talk us through your starts and your sits.
Oh, my best friend Kirk. Yeah, he's there. We got Matthew Stafford, of course. Jimmy Garoppolo, we're going to go with. Joey Burrow. Ryan Tannehill's going to be a sit for me. I trusted him last week. He got that early touchdown against the Steelers on the ground, and I'm like, you guys, this is why I'm a genius. At the end of the day, I was an idiot. Ryan Tannehill, way too many 10-point or less games. Tua Tagovailoa, don't like the matchup. Davis Mills has played excellent, but again, don't like the matchup. Jared Goff is on the COVID-19 list, but he is vaccinated, and there is a chance he plays on Sunday. And even if he does, well, I mean, he might be moving up this list at some point. But currently, even though, listen, Michael Frank, you realized last week that the Falcons are not necessarily the walkover that everybody thinks that they are. So I'm a little bit concerned about Jared Goff.
Okay, well, let's dig into Kirk Cousins a little bit because he wasn't so great last week, but you're still going to rock with him versus a very tough Rams defense.
Well, you know, the Bears defense was very good. And I think the Bears defense is better than, I'm just kidding. No, but you know what? Here's the thing. Kirk Cousins still threw 2 touchdowns in that game, and he's thrown 2 touchdown passes in 11 of 14 games this season. The problem was he had 87 passing yards because there were a lot of penalties called. Now, the Bears fan in me will be a little bitter, upset at the Rams, or upset at the referees for taking control. I think it was Bobby Quinn himself came out and said it seems like the referees have taken a little bit too much control, especially in those Monday night games. But still, you could go back. It could be a lack of discipline or whatever. I know this has nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. This is me trying to get, a change at the coaching position. For right now, as things stand, Kirk Cousins is a borderline quarterback 1 for me.
Yeah, I get it because Kirk Cousins, 1, he's healthy, and I don't know Dalvin Cook, but his pass catchers around him are healthy. Adam Thielen has a chance to suit up this week. We can't say that for a lot of quarterbacks around the league. And yes, the Rams are a good defense, they're also a very good offense. So I think Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw the ball to keep up with Matt Stafford and his great trio of receivers.
Well, right here it says that you guys would start Kirk Cousins over Jimmy Garoppolo. Adam Rank, you still have Jimmy G as a start tonight. Florio, agree or disagree? Are we starting or are we sitting Jimmy G at Tennessee?
I would be sitting him. And look, I made the case last week to start Jimmy G against the Falcons. He couldn't take advantage of it. And I know on paper, the Titans seem like a good matchup, but if he just didn't take advantage of one, I don't expect him to again. He brings a pretty low floor. He's got less than 16 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. And since week 7, the Titans are only giving up 14 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and only one has top 20. So I'm not hoping for a Festivus miracle when I'm going to sit Jimmy G and start a quarterback on Sunday.
So you would have started Jimmy Garoppolo in a bad matchup last week, and now
The
he's got a
Falcons on
good
paper
one,
are
and
good.
you're like, no. I told you last week the Falcons don't give up a lot of yards. They don't. The Falcons have allowed one 300-yard passer this year. That's not great. Jimmy Garoppolo, the Titans give up a ton of production to opposing quarterbacks. The only thing is, Deebo Samuel might run for a touchdown. Deebo Samuel, by the way, has a rushing touchdown in 5 consecutive games. If he does it this week, it'll be 6. Derrick Henry has never, and I know Derrick Henry's not playing, but Derrick Henry has never done that. So Deebo, that's my biggest concern. If you're sitting there and you're telling me like, the running game, Deebo, sure. But I think they're going to have to throw the football in this one. I think they're going to throw the football in this one. I think this is going to be a very competitive game. Watch it tonight on NFL Network, please.
All right, that game kicking off at 8:20 on the NFL Network. The Tennessee Titans playing host to the San Francisco 49ers, and these two guys agreeing to disagree when it comes to Jimmy G. Maybe you guys will agree on some wideouts for Week 16. Adam Rank, talk us through your receivers.
We do have Van Jefferson, Brandon Ayouk, Russell Gage, Michael Gallup. I think this is a big start your wide receivers game. Chase Claypool, though, is going to be a sit for me. He's struggled over the last couple of weeks. His one good week, he was a meme because he was dancing in the final 30 seconds of the game. By the way, I know we said Ray McLeod last week. That didn't work out, and I apologize. But DJ Moore, some troubling. I love DJ Moore. If DJ Moore could enter the transfer portal, I would love that. He should transfer to Chicago if he could next year. I would appreciate it.
I'm sure you would love that. Some fantasy managers are loving the recent production coming out of Russell Gage, and now he faces the Lions in Week 16, and you have him as a start, Adam Rank.
Yeah, this is one of those things that we just have to come to realize that Russell Gage is a startable wide receiver. I know we were apprehensive because it seemed too good to be true, but look at this. That's a Randy Moss play right there. Like, this guy legitimately has a lot of ability, and I'm starting to, get ahead of myself. Here, I'll tell you this. Let me just give you the numbers real quick. He's averaged over 18 fantasy points per game over the last. That would make him the wide receiver 9. Detroit has allowed a top 15 wide receiver in 3 out of the last 4 games. But honestly, a lot of us were already looking forward to next season. Think about, if Calvin Ridley is able to return, Kyle Pitts a full year under his belt, and Russell Gage, a few tweaks to this Falcons offense, and it could be really nice next year.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree that Russell Gage is a start this week. I would start him over all of the names that you see there. He brings a safe floor of double-digit fantasy points, and lately he's been showing us a high ceiling. So with the volume he gets each week in a good matchup against the Detroit Lions, I mean, it's the Detroit Lions. They're going to be able to throw the ball on them. So I agree. I have Russell Gage inside my top 20 wide receivers.
Okay, let's see another one. Maybe you guys will agree on this one, or maybe we'll get a little back and forth here. Brandon Ayouk, more shares of this 49ers team. Adam Rank, you think he's a start tonight? Tell me why.
Well, a lot of the reasons why we like Jimmy Garoppolo is that the Titans have allowed a ton of points to opposing wide receivers and quarterbacks this year. Last week was not a great week for Brandon Ayouk. We kind of saw the Brandon that we had seen for a couple of weeks when Deebo and George Kittle's healthy. He kind of takes a lesser role, but we see Deebo more and more becoming like a a Swiss Army knife type player where he's almost a running back. I feel like last week was just, you know what? Those things happen. I don't think that the Falcons are the pushover that everybody thinks they are. I think Tennessee's a better matchup. So I have Brandon Ayook as a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. And as you see, we're starting him over DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and, of course, Devontae Parker with a tough matchup against the Saints.
I like him over a lot of those names, Rank. I don't love Brandon Ayouk. I would be trying to get him out of my starting lineup if at all possible. I understand with COVID and stuff, you might not be able to. But last week, he just had 2 targets. He scored less than 5 fantasy points. He's got single digits now in 2 of 3. And the Titans have allowed 15 fantasy points to just 1 receiver since week 10. So I don't love the matchup. I don't love that he's third in the target pecking order. But I do think that he's not that bad. So, like, he's in my top 30. I just don't love him.
He's not that bad. He's not that bad. Can we put that on Christy, can you put that on a graphic? Like, Brandon Ayouk.
He's not that bad.
Not that bad. Not that bad.
Brandon Ayouk, don't be mad at us,
it.
but if you're a fantasy manager that's going to start him, or maybe you have him on your bench, you can see him live in action tonight as the Tennessee Titans host the San Francisco 49ers. That game exclusively on the NFL Network, kicking off at 8:20 p.m. Eastern. All right, it's time for a quick break, but when we come back, we've got some more of our favorite starts at the running back and the in spot. Start them up. We want to make sure you guys get that dub this week. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back in, guys. It's time now for Prepared to Perform, presented by Bridgestone Tires. Adam Rank, give me some starts and some sits at the running back spot.
Well, I think the starts there speak for themselves, especially Javonte Williams and, of course, Cordero Patterson. Some people might be surprised about the Saquon Barkley. Probably not. I think that if you've been living with Saquon Barkley this long, you've realized this is par for the course. We've been pretty good of determining the times to start and the times to sit him. I actually had a misfire last week because I did like him in a contest where I expected him to get a lot of dump-offs from Mike Glennon. That didn't quite work out the way that we wanted it to. And at some point, you just got to look at this. And this Eagles defense is very tough against opposing running backs. I know Antonio Gibson kind of gave you a blueprint of how well you can score fantasy points against this Eagles team, but I just don't trust Mike Glennon to get that done. If it's Daniel Jones, maybe, but not Mike Glennon and not Jake Fromm.
Yeah.
All right, Adam Rank, I see Oh, go, Florio. Get in there.
I was gonna say the list, the running backs I have ahead of Saquon this week are pretty gross. Like Ronald Jones, Rashad Penny, Justin Jackson, Sony Michel, all former backups. I would start them in week 16 over Saquon Barkley.
No love for Saquon this season. But Adam Rank, I see your cute, I didn't even call it ugly, your cute Chicago Bear Christmas sweater. I saw you had David Montgomery as a start at the Seattle Seahawks. Tell us why.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to wish cast this because David Montgomery is a good running back. I would say a great running back. As a matter of fact, it really just comes to a point of when the Bears need to focus in on running with him. Like if you give him the football, he's a very good player. I don't know what the disconnect is in the coaching room, why they refuse to give him the football. You know, we read a lot or see a lot or hear a lot about the Bears' struggles in the red zone. Why? When you have a player like David Montgomery, why are you struggling in the red zone? And now they have a really good matchup against the Seahawks. As you see right there, they've allowed the second most fantasy points per game to running backs. And we've seen actually in the past, you know, I think of the Las Vegas game, for instance, of like when they get a plus matchup like this, they will be committed to the football. And I think that Ryan Pace wants to see his young offensive line develop. And I think we're going to see a lot of David Montgomery.
Yeah, I really like this play, Rank. David Montgomery, what I like most about it is Seattle gives up the most catches and receiving yards per game to running backs, and David Montgomery has at least 6 targets in 3 straight games. So the Bears are utilizing him more in the passing game, and this is a prime matchup for him to take advantage of that.
Yes, the love for David Montgomery, it returns. We're not all the way off with the Chicago Bear offense. We got to give some love to a running back who's coming back into our lives because his head coach got fired. None other than James Robinson, and he has a dream matchup this week against the Jets, Florio. We've been waiting for this moment, and it's finally here in Week 16.
Yeah, first game with no Urban Meyer. James Robinson gets 21 touches, nearly 18 fantasy points. I don't think it's a coincidence, but I also think it was because the game against the Texans was just a lot more competitive. It was closer. The 2 weeks before that, those 2 games by a score of 57-7. So I think this will be a closer game against the Jets. We already know it's the best matchup. The Jets give up. They're in the top 3. They have the most fantasy points, the most yards, and I know they're second in touchdowns. Like, it's just a phenomenal matchup for James Robinson. We know how talented he is. I expect him to touch the ball a lot, which means I expect him to be started in your fantasy lineup.
The Jets have 26 rushing touchdowns this season. The only team with more this century is the 2000 Cardinals. We got to go back 21 years to find an example of a team that has given up this many touchdowns on the ground. So James Robinson has been set free by the dismissal of Urban Meyer. And, you know, like I hope similar type things happen in the future for David Montgomery.
Okay, but we love James Robinson, and he is an obvious must start against the Jets. Moving on to some tight ends. Adam Rank, I need some starts and some sits.
Love Zach Ertz this week against the Indianapolis Colts. Kyle Pitts continues to be a low-end tight end 1, and I know it's not the production that we expect. He's suffering from the Clyde Edwards-Elaire effect of we overdrafted him, so now we're mad at him. Where if we had drafted Kyle Pitts appropriately, we would be fine with his production. And I don't know, are we running video on Dalton Schultz? I just want to say one thing about this because Dalton Schultz has been excellent, but the Washington football team has allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. I think that's why it's going to be a big Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper game. They've been very tough against tight ends. They shut out Dalton Schultz 2 weeks ago, which means Dalton Schultz, 80 points guaranteed.
Hold on Dalton Schultz.
Hold
off on Dalton Schultz. I'm going to ask Flory about him in a minute. But first, you said you love Zach Ertz versus the Colts. So tell me all the reasons why.
You know, I need to do a better job of looking at the rundown. I gave away the whole store. Like it's the 23rd and I'm letting my kids open their presents. I'm so sorry. Here's my thing though, with Zach Ertz. This Cardinals team is now without DeAndre Hopkins. And so they're doing a better job of distributing the football to a lot of different players. AJ Green has looked rejuvenated. Christian Kirk has some opportunities, and of course, James Conner has been a beast. But Zach Ertz has been good since he's joined the Arizona Cardinals. He's 5th in receiving yards, as you see right there on the board. And this is one of those instances. This trade has been so fantastic because not only did we get Zach Ertz in a prominent role with a pretty good offense, but it's also freed up Dallas Goedert to go out there and beat as well. So you see right there, I would start Ertz over Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, and everything like that. And I'm so sorry I jumped ahead. I just wanted to make sure I got that Dalton Schultz information. That's how important it was to me. Not important enough for me to look one more line down the rundown, but still important.
And Rank, I'm with you on Zach Ertz, though. I love Zach Ertz. The Colts struggle in the past. They're good against the run. They really struggle against tight ends. We saw what Hunter Henry did against them last week. And Ertz is getting so much volume as of late. I think he's a top 5 tight end play this week.
Top 5 tight end for Zach Ertz. Since Rank already went on a rant regarding Dalton Schultz, Florio, I want to ask you if you agree that he's a sit this week versus Washington FT.
I don't think he's necessarily a sit. I don't have him like super high, like top 5 or anything like that, but I do have him as a low-end tight end 1 because I feel like he brings a safe floor for a tight end. He's given us over 9 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. You can't say that for a whole bunch of tight ends. He scored over 20 last week. I understand it could be a receiver game. That's why I don't love him as a top 5 option, but I think that he brings a safe enough floor and sees enough consistent volume where you probably can't get away from him looking at the tight end position. So he's in my top 12 still.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the difficult thing about this. Like, I could do it. You could do this list and be like, yeah, don't start James O'Shaughnessy. Like, and just take the easy way out. Like, I could literally do that. But I think, you know what? An interesting one to me is I think CJ Uzomah. I think this is probably the best example that I can use because Dalton Schultz is probably going to start for a lot of you, and I understand. CJ Uzomah, who's not been great, has a really good matchup against the Baltimore Ravens this week. And the last time CJ Uzomah scored, 24 fantasy points, was against this Baltimore Ravens team. So I would lean, if I'm playing, like if I'm just going to be a matchup guy, I take CJ Uzomah over Dalton Schultz. But Dalton Schultz is still really good. Like, don't get it twisted.
Let's count how many times today Adam Rank has said Dalton Schultz's name. I'm sure you'd be twisted if you're taking sips for that one. But these guys giving us all their favorite starts and sits at the quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and tight end spot. But don't you worry, we have to take a break. But when we come back, we have more of our favorite starts, including our Club the Players of the Week. We want to make you guys a championship bound. So stick with us. This is the Start 'em Sit 'em Show presented by Bridgestone Tires.
And it's time for the Colonel's Starts of the Week presented by KFC. And by the way, Lauren, who has been crushing it today, not Christy, Lauren, if I can get a screen grab, I would like that. But anyways, let's start at the quarterback position. Jalen Hurts has been crushing it as well. And at some point, people just have to come to accept the fact that Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that needs to be started week in. And funny when we get to go on shows, I know Kimmy and I will do this. We'll go on Total Access, and we'll start talking. All these guys don't want to recognize the fact Jalen Hurts is an excellent quarterback. I know we cheat because we do fantasy football, and we see this, and we're invested in it. But he had close to 28 fantasy points versus Washington in Week 15, despite a couple of turnovers, a couple of rushing touchdowns. This week, he's got the New York Giants. You want to make sure that he's in your lineup. Also, let's move to the running back position, and it is time now for one of our favorite players. I mentioned him earlier in the show in kind of a derogatory way. Well, let's talk about Clyde Edwards-Elaire. When you look at the situation that's unfolding in Kansas City right now, it looks like Clyde Edwards-Elaire is going to be the player that they are leaning on in this pivotal matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And last year, I was very high on Clyde Edwards-Elaire. I was one of those people who inflated his value. But you know what? You see right there, 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games combined. I was worried that when he returned from injury that he wasn't even going to be a prominent part of this offense, and yet he's been out there crushing it. Speaking of guys who've been crushing it, let's talk about Keenan Allen playing for the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, another team that has some COVID concerns. Obviously, we're going to monitor what is happening with Austin Eckler, although I would approach that as that he's not playing just to be safe. Go get Justin Jackson and all that stuff. But Keenan Allen has got such a great opportunity against the Houston Texans this week. The Chargers need victory, need to bounce back from their Week 15 loss to the Kansas. I know the Week 15 loss seemed like 12 months ago. That was actually just last week. They need to bounce back. I expect a huge game from Keenan Allen. And those are the Colonel's Starts of the Week presented by KFC.
Thank you, Rank. Let's go ahead and take it to the Rank, a.k.a. the crazy streets of Twitter. Florio, we got a fan question for you. Do I start Ronald Jones or Jeff Wilson Jr.?
I would go Ronald Jones in this one. Look, the Titans are the best team at stopping running backs, at least when it comes to fantasy points per game. I know the Panthers have been kind of tough against the run, but I'm going to take my chances with Tom Brady and his lead running back, so give me Ronald Jones.
Okay, Adam Rank, next question for you. I need help, Hunter Henry or Kyle Pitts in a tight end conundrum.
No, I understand where you're coming from. Hunter Henry to me would be kind of a point-chasing situation. I would go with Kyle Pitts. Again, similar to what happened with Clyde Edwards-Elaire last season. The value for Kyle Pitts, the disappointment is based entirely on where you drafted him, not on the player himself. He's been fine. He's been good. I think he's the Falcon. I think he's still the Falcons' leader in receiving yards, so he's fine. I'd go with Kyle Pitts.
Okay, another question, Florio, coming back around to you. Wants to know, Sony Michel or Miles Sanders at running back?
This one is close. I'm leaning Sony Michel, though, because Miles Sanders doesn't get the opportunity to score touchdowns, and Sony Michel was the Rams' lead runner last week. It looks like he's kind of taking over that job, so slight lean towards Sony Michel, but that one is definitely very close.
I agree with you on Sony. Adam Rank, last question coming in hot for you. In the semifinals, should I start Justin Herbert against the Texans or Stafford versus the Vikings? He's tempted with Stafford.
No. Don't be tempted. No. Justin Herbert is your starting quarterback for eternity. Like, that's it. Even when he retires, you're still going to start Justin Herbert. He is so good. He is such a good player. He's been putting up such great numbers. I don't understand why you're – I do understand because Matt Stafford has a history against the Vikings. He's been very good. But Justin Herbert's my guy. I would never waver because you're going to beat yourself up. Whenever you're in a situation like that, it's best to just have one guy that you're going to live with and not deal with it because the week that you flip-flop it, it's going to burn you, and then you're going to hate yourself for the entire offseason. I'm still thinking about a move I made last year. So – no, let it go. Start Herbert.
Justin Herbert versus the Texans all the way. As a reminder, I'm sure more of you guys have questions. Go ahead and tweet us at NFL Fantasy with all of your lineup questions, and hopefully we will get to them to help you get a dub. Also, if you are in these conundrums, you're in these situations, make sure you go to NFL.com/rankings because Michael F. Florio comes out with a full list every single week. All right, you just saw the graphic. You know what time it is. Time to get our money guns from home out and give our club dub players of the week. Guys, we guarantee are going to score at least 25 fantasy points in week 16. Adam Rank, you're making it rain with some fake money.
I'm trying to find them.
Non-existent money.
Wallet. I do have
Start
a
us
stack.
off.
I got a stack of 20s. I don't know where I put it. Oh no, the kids took off with it. But you know what? My club dub player of the week is going to be Deebo Samuel. Thursday night football against the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if you were listening earlier in the show, but I mentioned Deebo has at least one rushing touchdown in 5 consecutive games. Derrick Henry has never had a rushing touchdown in 6 straight games, which means Deebo could do something that Derrick Henry's not. And honestly, this was something that we talked about on this show a couple of ago, that the 49ers always seem to have problems at the running back position. Like, why don't we just start Deebo Samuel? Like, why don't we just do direct snaps to Deebo Samuel? Why don't we have Deebo do the kicks? Why don't we have him throw him to himself? Like those Mr. Perfect vignettes. So to me, Deebo Samuel's going to have a monster game. And so I would absolutely expect him to crush it tonight against the Tennessee Titans.
All right, Deebo getting it done tonight. That's what Adam Rank is projecting. Florio, give me a club dubber.
I'm wearing the jersey. I'm going with them. It's Josh Allen. I hope this works the way I wanted it to. It's Josh Allen. It's still shooting money. Look, Josh Allen, I'm not worried about it, the matchup against the Patriots or anything like that. Last year, he traveled down to New England in December, right after Christmas, and went for 320 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Scored over 32 fantasy points. I think his struggles against the Patriots earlier this season was because of the bad weather. That was just a really weird game. I know some people are worried about Josh Allen. I wouldn't be. I'd be starting him everywhere. I think he gives us at least 25 points this week.
And there's no homer bias on any of that, even though he's wearing a Buffalo Bills jersey and a little Santa Claus hat. All right, I'm going to stay away from the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to be crazy to talk about a team in our division, a rival of ours. But I'm taking Hunter Renfro this week, baby, in an AFC West battle versus the Denver Broncos. He is a wide receiver 1. I know his numbers last week weren't sexy or what you would want it. However, Hunter Renfro has been a top 12 wide receiver in 5 of the last 7 matchups. He just had at least 8 receptions, over 100 receiving yards in 3 of the last. He is the clear target for everything coming out of Derek Carr's arm. I think this is going to be a lot of a throwing game for the Raiders going up against the Broncos. It's a rival game. Crazy weird things happen in the AFC West division, and the Raiders are hungry to try to stay alive and get it done with Hunter Renfro. He's my pick. I love him. I'm going to stand him continually. But those are our Club Dub players of the week, and this was the Start 'em Sit 'em show presented by Bridgestone Tires. But don't you worry, if you're in need of more advice, we got you guys covered. We have NFL Fantasy Game Days. That airs and goes live on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern. We take you all the way up until the moment of kickoff. You can catch all of us on the NFL Fantasy app, the NFL app, NFL.com, Facebook, or YouTube. Good luck, everybody. Don't forget, Thursday Night Football kicks off tonight in just a few hours. The Titans playing host to the 49ers on NFL Network, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Merry almost Christmas.